Hi, I'm Tony Silvernail. I used to work here at Kentucky State years and years ago. I had the first grant actually here for the organic program. So I've been involved with organics for a little bit. Currently right now I have my own organic farm and I am an organic inspector for Pennsylvania Certified Organic and Where Food Comes From. Pennsylvania, obviously out of Pennsylvania. Where Food Comes From is based out of Colorado. I've inspected last year I did about 150 farms from Idaho to North Carolina. And anywhere the producers, anywhere from maybe 10,000 in total sales to 30 million in sales. So I've had the privilege of being on a lot of different farms with a lot of different scales of farming. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the inspection and how that all goes. Oops, I'm sorry. I hit the wrong button. There you go. Sort of with organic and with the certification and the inspection process, there is the good, the bad, and the ugly with that all. The good obviously is the certification. You have a third party actually coming to your farm, verifying that you are actually following the organic standards and doing what you should be doing. Because like I always said, there is no almost with certified organic. Sean would know. My favorite saying with this is, what do I say, Sean?
It's like being pregnant.
Yep, it's like being pregnant. You either are or you're not with your certified organic. In some cases, you don't need to be certified. Obviously, there's exclusion if you're under 5,000 in sales, or if you already have your clientele like a CSA and all of your buyers and stuff already know what you're doing, that's fine. But like in my case, for my own farm, I sell wholesale to Good Foods, so I actually have to have that third-party verification and stuff. The bad, obviously, is, you have to keep records. That's sort of a two-sided coin in a lot of ways. For one, it can help you, in all honesty, help your management, help you figure things out, what's working, what's not. But also, it's an extra step that you do have to take almost every day or every week and manage that. And the ugly is, like if you get caught or if you're doing something wrong, you can lose your certification. So there is, like I said, there is the good, the bad, and the ugly with this all. And the organic program, this is how I always look at the organic program as a whole. There's three main parts to it. Obviously the consumers, the producers, and the producers can be the farmers, ranchers, dairy, processors, and handlers. That's all that part, and the regulatory component. The regulatory, which I'm talking about today, is an essential part for the whole the program as a whole, because if you don't have that, how can you actually verify what you're saying you're doing is actually being done? And for the consumers, they need that backing too, so they know that when they see that organic seal that's up there, that you are doing what you say you're doing. So if you are thinking about certifying, there are a lot of options out there. They are what's called accredited certifying agent. Like I said, I inspect for Pennsylvania Certified Organic, which is up there, and Where Food Comes From, but I've also inspected for OFA. Both PCO, OFA, and OneCert have a presence here in this state. So when you're picking out a certifier, sometimes it may benefit you to contact these ACAs and see how many farmers they have in your state, because with these independent certifiers, you're paying for the travel of the inspector too. So they are more expensive than what you may find at KDA, but from my experience, they do get your certification a lot quicker, and my belief is they're easier to deal with. I certify with OneCert. They're out of Nebraska, and they have inspectors here locally, so that's not an issue. So that's some of them. I think there's I forget how many ACAs there are here in this. Some of them have a presence here in the state, some of them don't. So that's one of the things. And you can find out, this is a great website. It's called the Organic Integrity Database, the OID. It's run by the USDA. You can go on that then you can do a search and sort of see, who's all certified in your state, in your area. Everybody's listed. My farm, Beyond the Bridge, is listed here in Franklin County. So you can go on there and you can sort it by certifying agents, and you can sort of see where everybody's at and everything like that. So again, it's the Organic Integrity Database, and that's a great tool if you're trying to decide on the certifier. What?
7 in Franklin County.
7 what?
7 certified operations.
Oh, 7. Oh, awesome. I didn't realize that. That's all right. We were part of, KSU was actually the first one certified here in the county. Brian Geyer, who is here somewhere, he disappeared. He got the paperwork done first couple of times here for Kentucky State. So, but when you're getting certified, I always say there's 5 main steps to getting certified. The first one is obviously developing what's called your Organic System Plan, or short OSP. That is what I always tell people when I used to do transition training is you're telling the story of your farm. And you have to do it in such detail that somebody sitting behind a desk, when they do the second step, which is the first review, they'll be able to figure out what's going on, how you're doing it, and when you're doing it. Obviously, you're not writing a Russian novel, so you don't have to go into excruciating detail, but you have to have enough detail to where somebody looking at that, like I said, behind a desk somewhere else, can look at it and figure out what you're doing and what's going on. And then the second step, obviously, is the first review. Once you fill in your OSP, you send everything into your ACA. They cash your check or take your money, and then they'll do a first review. The first review is somebody like me, like an inspector that's been certified to do inspections, reviews all of your paperwork. And if there's shortcomings or if you're missing something, they'll follow up. They'll try to gather all the information, and they'll do a report. And that report then is handed off to the inspector. The inspector is the face that will be there on the farm. And that's like the third step. That's where I'll get a report. It goes by different names, but I call it initial review report, form report, or form IRR or IRF, depending on who I'm working with at the time. And they'll sort of tell me like, okay, what to look for as I'm doing inspections, and if there's shortcomings, collect which paperwork, blah, blah, blah. And that's the third step. And what I do as an inspector, I'll come out, I'll review everything that you're doing, how you're doing it, and what you're doing it with. And then I will actually do a report, an inspection report, and give an exit interview. The exit interview is important because that will tell you, as a farmer, what is everything good? I'll usually put like no issues of concern, or if there is concern, I will actually cite the rule. A lot of what the issues you run into is just records. I mean, that's about 80%, literally, 3/4 to 80% of all the write-ups that I do, it's all about just insufficient records. And usually that's easily remedied. People will get all the records together, then send it in. So then, but that's all in the exit interview. And that is essential that you are given either a verbal exit interview, that's the way PCO does it, or where food comes from, it's actually a form that I do where I write up if there are issues or if there are no issues. That has to be documented. That's essential. And what I'll do then is I'll turn that all in. As an inspector, I turn that into our final review. The final review people may have some more questions, which they may ask me as the inspector, or they may go to the farmer, pull in stuff like that. And then it goes to the final thumbs up, thumbs down, and hopefully everything went well, and then you'll get certified. As you're going through, and if you're looking at getting certified, and you're looking at different products to use, and you're not that familiar with that, I always say never, ever, ever go with it that it's easier to forgive than permission. It's easier to ask permission. God, I can't get this right. Sorry. It's easier to ask forgiveness than permission. That is the totally wrong thing to do. if you are going to be an organic grower. You always have to verify whatever that you're going to use is compliant with the organic rules. And, forgiveness, if you do commit those sins, forgiveness comes with a 3-year contrition of having to retransition your ground. So it always benefits you to verify where you do that. And, that's why this leads into, ask your ACA, your certifying agent, on any products. The products anywhere from fertilizers to pesticides to growing media, seed treatments, ask them. And there are lists out there that are accepted, by about everybody. KDA also. There's the OMRI list, the Organic Materials Review Institute. They're probably the biggest, sort of the gold standard for looking up materials. PCO does a lot with dairy. They're obviously out of Pennsylvania, so they got a lot of dairy products. WSDA is Washington State Department of Ag. And then there's CCOF, California, Organic Farms. They all have lists, and some of them you can't access, but your ACA would be able to access that. So always, if you're not familiar, definitely check. And plus, you have to, as you're filling out your OSP, you do have to list all the products that you are using. Before you even put it into the field, I certify with OneCert. I send them, I use Charlie's Compost. So last year when I really started using that, I sent them these OMRI listed, blah, blah, blah. And literally that same day, I got an email back that, yep, okay, you're good to go. And PCO will respond like that too. They're pretty quick. And OMRI, you just go to the list, and you can find a lot of different products there. And one thing as an inspector, when I'm talking about inspections, just some things to remember, and this is what I try to keep in mind when I go to a farm. One, it's a privilege to be on that farm. You're there, you're doing a service, yes, you're keeping organic integrity, yes, but this is a family business. So, what I try to do as an inspector, and this is something you should expect too from whatever inspectors or ACAs you go with, they should respect the fact that you have a farm. I mean, because I've heard of different inspections go totally awry, and instead of being a constructive, okay, there's an issue here, as an inspector, I point that out, and then they'll end up contacting the ACA and go through the process of rectifying that. But I've heard of some instances that's gotten really destructive and confrontational. And that's one thing you really, as an inspector, I try to avoid. Because like I said, there is family. That's my kids. Like I was saying, it is a family endeavor. So whenever you're working with, farms, you just got to keep that in mind. So I know I ran over as usual. But if there's any quick questions. No? Yes, okay, Sean.
So just because it's OMRI listed, can I just go right ahead and tell everybody?
Homework before I put it in the ground.
Yes,
Can you make that very clear for me?
No, I didn't make that clear at all. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yes, a lot of products that you have. Okay, let's use fertilizers, for instance. You have to have a need to use it. And there'll be a lot of things that are what's called annotated. You'll see with fertilizers like micronutrients, you do a soil test, and this will all be part of the inspection process too. Like if you're using boron or sulfur or different things like that, you have to show the need for that. And if you're using pesticides, you have to go through the whole steps of, okay, did I do things culturally? Did I do things, do other steps before I went and bought and used this pesticide? So you got in a lot of these cases, you have to prove the need for it. And soil tests are relatively cheap. That's one of the biggest things, because you'll see a lot of people using a lot of different methods for assessing soil health, different things like that. And you'll see a whole cocktail, huge, list of products that they're putting in, but you have to actually justify that for whatever they're growing. Did I answer your question there?
Well, sort of.
Okay.
The bag says OMRI, and I need it fast. I just want to go ahead and dump it in. Bag
Nope.
says OMRI, is that okay?
No, like I said earlier, if you'd have been paying attention, you have to actually verify with your ACA before you list it. I brought up the example with Charlie's Compost. With one cert, I was something new that I was starting to use once he had it OMRI listed. I contact them. You always, like I said, it goes back to that one slide. I don't think you're in here, so yes, and I always said verify. Even with its OMRI, you should actually, have a need for that. Just don't go pell-mell just because it's OMRI, just start spreading stuff all over the place. You do have to justify whatever you're doing. Yes, sir.
Is biochar an acceptable practice?
Yeah. There it is. But you have to make sure you verify. If you're doing your own biochar, what I would suggest, what I'd like to see is, okay, where'd the wood come from? And how you're processing. And that would just be, if you're collecting it from your own site, from your own farm, you just have, well, this was this, and you can verify that, okay, no treated lumber, no creosote lumber, or anything like that was actually in that when you were making your biochar. And if you're getting it from somebody, you would need that purity statement too from them, whoever that is. Same with wood chips or things like that.
If I go to a construction site and I get the cut off 2x4s, would that be okay?
It should be fine, but I would still verify. I would still, I'm not sure how well pine does with biochars, but yeah, I mean, most of them are pine or something like that.
Do I need that in writing from the construction site?
Well, I would take pictures of it. I would document what you're making it from. And that would be here another question, maybe contact your certifying agent. What would they require from that? As an inspector, I would like to see, okay, some verification that whatever you're doing it was not treated lumber. Whether that be a picture, it's like, okay, this was a picture on this date, blah, blah, blah. And, you just sign it that way or from wherever, so. Any more? Well, there's Brian. I mentioned him earlier, but he had stepped out. You did the first couple years of certifying here at KSU? You filed the paperwork first couple of years?
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
what
I did
years,
do that.
Was that 05 when we started?
Probably.
Okay.
That's about the ballpark.
Okay, well, great. Thank you. I didn't want to put you on the spot. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. I'm going to have to boogie right now, but if there's any questions, just ask Sean. He's almost as knowledgeable as me. No, honestly. No, ask him, and he can give you my information if you need to ask me any questions directly. I'll be happy to get back with you. But I got to head to Michigan right now, so take care. Thank you.